y'all, it's Uncle B and Fee coming to you again live from 8 to 9 Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday. Coming to you with that good, you know, that stuff that your mama and your daddy can't teach you about? Dating and relationships in the 21st century. They can't advise you, so we all here together just trying to figure it out. But before we get into today's topic, first thing we want you to do is...
I think you need to go ahead and like and subscribe and hit that notifications and and comment and you know, all that good stuff. Interact. We want to see
all
you.
of it. And
Yeah,
share the video too. Share with your friends. Like, you know, we need more people on our channel, you know, engaging in this conversation so we can have some answers.
Yeah.
So, anywho, without further ado, let's get into today's topic, which this is a subject that I think Uncle B should intro.
Yeah, we're talking about basically, you know, over time. You know, you start maturing, you get into dating and relationships and having kids and like what goes on? What's the differences between that time? I mean, which is very important for people to understand in order to have good relationships, because you go in your 20s, you thinking something, 30s, you thinking something else, 40s, you thinking something else. So like what changes and what can you learn? What can you apply? And you know, we also got some, you know, a couple of things that can help you out if you got some questions. So that's what we can talk
dating in the 21st century, dating when you're old, however you want to call it. That's what we're talking about. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna throw this at you again, Uncle B. Got my ideas, you got yours. Now let's talk about this one that me and you kind of disagree on. Actually, we're gonna start off with that one.
Let's go.
So here's the thing. As you get older, what we're doing is we're talking about like how dating styles change, the things that you do differently. I say as you get older, you get a little bit more direct. You know, you're a little bit more adamant about what it is that you want, and you telling the person, I'm not saying everyone, but most people, especially a mature adult, you're going to let that person know, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want to do. What are you looking for? What do you want to do? And you get a little bit more straight to it. Whereas when you're younger, it's more like, oh, let's just go to the movies. Let's just go have some fun. And then, you know, you just kind of hope for the best. Now, we kind of disagree on this. Tell me why.
Well, I mean, because humans are still humans. And I think when you get older, you know, there are levels of insecurities when you're young just because you don't know. And then there's levels of insecurities when you get older because you know. And so that level of insecurity when you get older tends to be that, okay, I've been through a relationship and I know that things can end and stuff like that. So, you know, especially in the beginning of relationships, a lot of times people sort of hold back. It's like, you know, I think this way about this person, but, you know, I don't want to end the relationship. So let me make sure I'm on my P's and Q's and you know, and that can be problematic.
So you're thinking that older people are doing that they're trying to be more on their P's and Q's.
Yeah. You know, you're starting to realize that there's a good possibility that this person, you know, just isn't going to. They find out about that one thing that happened, and
then it's over. You're done for.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I don't totally disagree with that. So I'm not saying that can't be the case, but I do feel like the majority of people. I mean, just think about it. When you're young, it's like. You haven't lived life yet. You have no life experiences to pull from to know like what types of questions you should ask or what you should be looking for. When you're young, it's just all about having fun. It's like, hey, you want to go to the mall? We can go to the ice skating rink. You want to go get some, you know, some cupcakes from down the street. You're just thinking about fun things to do because when you're younger, you're a little bit more sheltered because you're at home. So there's really no threats. There's nothing really major that has probably happened to you that could happen once you're older and you start paying bills and you start seeing how life really is. But when you get older, it's like, okay, I've been with somebody who I'm just saying that these are possible scenarios. You could have been with someone who they took, you know, your love for granted, or could have been with someone who took your money for granted. You could have been with somebody who just lied to you all the time. I mean, there's a number of different things that could have happened. So when you're older, you know those things to look for and ask the questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's going to be, it's how you take your experiences. So for some people, you take your experiences, and it depends on where you are in your life. If you're more ready to get into a relationship, and you're more desperate for the
Be
relationship,
quiet. Sorry, that's my dog, y'all. That's Ginger.
keep it real. Keep it real.
She's barking at some kids right now. Hey, come over here and sit down. Go ahead though. Keep talking, because I hear you and so do they.
Okay, but yeah, so as you get older, and especially you get into a situation where it's like you really want the relationship, that's the part where people can start withholding, because they're more concerned with keeping the relationship than they are with really finding out if they're more concerned with
Yeah.
keeping the relationship. So
I mean, I
it's
can
like,
see that.
yeah. So it's like, somebody who was sitting there thinking like, okay, this person is saying they want to have 4 kids, but I don't want to have 4 kids, but I don't want to lose this person. Or it doesn't have to be something as that dramatic, but it's like, well, this person, apparently they like to drink a lot. And I don't
Right.
like that at all, but I don't want to lose this person. So you run into that situation. And that situation can happen at
So basically, you're talking
many
about
ages.
deception,
Yeah.
which I feel like.
Mhm.
Well, no, I mean that's true, because I was gonna say it. I could see that happening. I mean, I can't really see that happening as much when you're young, because you don't really necessarily have a reason to be deceptive yet.
Mhm.
I
I
can
mean,
definitely see it more so when you're older.
I think there's some things that change once you get older, once you get more experience. But some things, you're still human. So it's like that whole need to be wanted, and to really, really want this person. Those things sometimes drive people to put blinders on, and I think that happens. It doesn't, as you get older, you should learn to not go with the blinders and just realize like, okay, this person is this person. That's the way they are. They are going to, apparently, Saturday night, the liquor.
Uh oh, the liquor. You said the liquor. See, he's talking about somebody, and his thing just went blank. Or did
Yeah.
it go black so you can drink some liquor?
Yeah, hey. Excuse me.
Yeah,
Secret
busted.
formula. Secret formula. But yeah, you have to, the level. I mean, it takes time to really get to know somebody. I think one of the issues with the way dating is now, just completely, as compared to back in the day, was that you had communities, and so you could find out stuff about the person before you actually met them. You actually knew some stuff. You could have a level of comfort. Now you're meeting people cold. You filled out your form online, and who knows.
And now you
can check,
don't. Yeah.
you could check them out. It's like Google me, Facebook me.
Well, you know what? I mean, what you're saying is true in terms of the fact that people do tend to lie and be more deceptive because of that stuff. Because people want to be looked upon as favorable, and especially if a
Mhm.
person has a lot of baggage going on with them, or they got a lot of it could be anything, whether it's emotional baggage or just things in their life that need to be handled. I mean, I could definitely see that, but I still feel like there's always going to have to be that other person who needs to be, I'll just say, the voice of reason, or the mature one that knows to ask those questions and be upfront and be direct and say, dig in. So here's what I mean by that. Like when you're young, right? Let's say when I was a young woman and I was dating a guy, if he said something that kind of made me think like, I don't know how I feel about what he said. It sounds a little strange, or it doesn't really make sense. When you're younger, you don't necessarily know to follow up, or you don't know how to even ask follow-up questions to see if that person, like, what do you mean when you say this? Or why did you say this? Like, it's almost like you look at anything that you say that might be looked upon as disagreeable as a bad thing. Whereas I
Right.
think when you're older, you start to look at it like it's not being disagreeable. You just need answers, and you need the answers to make sense so that you can make the best decision that you can make for yourself. So even if there is a person that's being deceptive, or a person who is lying and all this other kind of stuff, and they're trying to save face, there has to be somebody there. Otherwise, I mean, if you get two people together, I mean, and I would think that as a person gets older, you would figure that out a little bit sooner. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it has to be
Yeah,
perfect,
yeah, yeah.
but
I think it's like, you know, I agree with you on the level of like people being direct because I realized as I got old, I was a little bit, yeah, definitely, just more direct in terms of like, I'm not, I see things. So, for example, you know, met a young lady online, went out with her, and we get to the restaurant, and she's like mean. She's like, you know, mean to the people in front of us, mean to the wait staff, and I've already dealt with people who are nice but mean. And it was like, I know what happens with this. They end up being mean to you, and within that time, sitting there observing, I was like, she's going to be mean to me. And she said some things out of her mouth. I was like, all right, this ain't
but
gonna work.
was she nice to you up until like that point where you just observed her being mean to the wait staff, or was she like showing signs of mean to you too?
She was nice, and then it was like, you know, just the way that I said I had to go to the restroom, but we were sitting there having a conversation. We were outside, and it was like the way she just interrupted. It was like, you know, I think you just need to go into the bathroom so we can get out this heat. It was like, okay,
Oh, she said that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and I'm
Get
like,
your ass to that bathroom then, for you get in
Mhm.
trouble.
I was like, oh, okay, you know, went to the bathroom, came back, you know, and walked her to her car, said have a great afternoon, you know, and we were
Never talk
supposed
to her
to.
again.
Yeah, no. We were supposed to meet up later on that evening. I was like, nah, I'm good. Yeah, you know, we talked on the phone. It was like, yeah, I'm tired. Gotta go. Yeah, you know. So
Now
I'm
let
like,
me ask you something.
Mhm.
Have you ever thought about, I don't know if you've had another scenario like this, but have you ever thought about if you witness that type of behavior, saying something to the person, or is it just more, I guess, your go-to to just chalk it up as a loss and keep it moving?
I'm not here to change people. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know how to, you know. Um, I've dealt with people like that before, and it's like if that's in their nature, and for a lot of people, it's like I'm like this. I don't need to change, and I'm not going to go through the whole process of trying to coach them. It's like you should see the light and be a nicer person. I ain't got that much time, and I'm not skilled at that. So
You know what's messed up? I really feel like it's kind of unfortunate, because I understand your stance on one hand that
Mhm.
you just got to live your life. You don't have time to be spending time with someone that you don't even plan to ever see again and coach them through life, because you got things to do for yourself. And it will be like a waste of time to expend energy on someone you don't even really care about.
this is
So
true.
I totally get that.
Mhm.
But I think it's so unfortunate that, like, because guys are not telling women when women are being mean or nasty or rude, because guys are not telling women this stuff, women are going around thinking that their behavior is okay. And I'm not saying that it's on men to have to do that, because I get that also in the
Mhm.
family. Women should be teaching their children that. Aunts
Mhm.
should be teaching, you know, grandmother should be teaching. But it's just, that's why I'm saying it's unfortunate, because I don't even have an answer for it. All I can say is it's unfortunate, because I don't know what the answer is. I mean, because sometimes people are, even older women have been rude before and nasty. So naturally, if you got,
Mhm.
you know, younger women that are in your household, they're looking at your behavior, and then they're going out being rude, nasty, and mean. And then we get to this place where we have a situation with dating. And of course, this is not just this doesn't just extend to women. Obviously, you know, we
Mhm.
have issues with men too. But I mean, just in terms of your situation, I just
Yeah.
think that it's kind of messed up that women
Well,
just never know. They're not
well,
being told.
here's a an interesting take on it because to me, an important part of relationships is, you know, the ability to listen to the other person. And there are people who, to your point, is like, okay, when you're younger, it's getting back to that whole age thing. When you, typically somebody who's younger may not know to listen. It's like they
Right.
don't have an appreciation of what comes out of that in terms of like, I listen to the person and that makes the relationship better instead of I don't need to listen to this person. They're supposed to, this is the way a relationship is supposed to be. As you get older, the person I've had conversation with people when they were younger, they said that they weren't as they didn't listen as much. Now they listen more and I'm like, oh, okay. That
Mhm.
makes that makes it a lot easier when you get to with some people it's like you don't know once again that whole thing of like how do I tell a person to listen and especially there's a training that goes on in terms of like oh you don't have to listen to this person this person is saying this and host the whole society especially with a lot of women it's like yeah
Oh, you
you don't have
paused. Oh, never mind.
okay,
The
go ahead.
camera's off. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like for a lot of times people women have been taught specifically that whatever a man says you don't have to listen to a man he's he's just and it gets ingrained to the point it's like oh well I think this isn't correct you can't tell me nothing it's like okay if I can't tell you nothing then you want to it's like like I said before if someone's ignoring you then they don't like you so I think that's something that needs to be ingrained back into the culture into homes and things like that is like yeah if you want to be with somebody then you need to listen to them.
Maybe there should be like some kind of after school classes for men and women to be in
Mhm.
relationships, but like not so much. I mean, because when you're young, like, you have to kind of be careful about the way you're training, young people. But I just feel like just common courtesy skills and stuff like that, because I really do kind of feel like that's what's missing. But
Right.
specifically, when it comes to like age and dating, I guess the good thing is that yes, when people are more direct, because as a result of this is something that I've been through, like as far as like dating, someone may have been through something
Mhm.
where situations weren't going the way that they wanted them to go, or, whatever happened bad to the relationship happened, and a person learns their lesson. And so they come into the new situation or the new possible relationship asking questions that are pertinent to their growth, like maybe they want to know, like, maybe let's say for instance I dated a guy and found out that he was an alcoholic, but he didn't display those traits initially. Well, maybe the next time I go out with somebody, I'm going to be asking them questions that maybe not accusatory, not in an accusatory way, but just asking questions about their habits. Like, do you like to enjoy a drink after work? Or, you know, how much do you drink? Like, are you a social drinker? Just kind of like
Mhm.
to get to know them and fill them out. And that's kind of what I mean about I guess that's the good part of dating as you get older. But the negative part would be like what you're saying, where maybe somebody will have determined that, okay, um, now that since I know I'm an alcoholic, you know what I mean, and I'm out here
Yeah.
trying to date women, let me try to cover that up by like not
Mhm.
drinking alcohol
Mhm.
forever until I finally get into a relationship with this woman, and I'll just bust out the Jack Daniels and just go to town with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess that happens too.
Yeah. And so, just keeping with our agenda as it were, it's like that we got that whole thing of like as you get older, there's like you said, there's more direct, but there's still some more you have more baggage on top of that that you try to like sweep under the rug just so you can
Hmm.
stay into the relationship. And, one of the more telling pieces, old and young, is kids. When you bring kids into the picture, woo we uh
That's a
it
whole
gets
nother level.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like let's say let's separate it out. You got your dating and you have your relationship, whether it's husband, wife, co-parenting, however you want to say it. So during the dating phase, um, you know, when it comes to having kids, it doesn't matter if you're younger or older, the kids.
Right.
So, the only difference typically is, if you're older and the kids can take care of themselves, it's like I can leave the house. I can, they're 14 years old, so I can leave the house, blah, blah, blah. But
Hmm.
they're still, number one on your list in terms of your priorities. And so, you have whether that's male or woman who's the parent or if it's both, it gets complicated. And a lot of people, sometimes don't uh don't recognize the levels of complications, especially if they're your kids. You're like, oh, these kids, they're fine. Just come on over and blah blah blah. It's like, y'all go into your room now, and
Oh,
all
it gets
types.
it really does. I mean, and I think there's complications on women's side and men's side in different ways too. Because like something I've observed with like on my end, I would say as a woman is like sometimes if a man has kids, it can be bad, for a woman because even though the other woman will primarily have the kids, the mother or whatever, she'll have the kids all the time, but the only issue with that sometimes is that women know other women. And we know just how vicious other women can be. I mean, that's not to say that men can't be like that, but I think especially when it comes to a situation like this, like where there's children involved, a lot of times, yeah, women can be very vicious. And if they know that the guy has, either if he has free time and he's spending it with another woman, but then it's like, well, you ain't seeing your kids, but you out here gallivanting with such and such, she'll make his life a living hell because of that. If he's spending his money and it looks like a good times, and how everybody is, they want to put stuff on Facebook and Instagram that they hanging out having a good time. Oh, he got money to go to a concert with this bitch. You know what I mean? Like that's really what they're going to be thinking. And then it's like, okay, I'll show him child support court and I'm coming for some extra payments, And then not only that, there's times where even women will actually reach out. I've had this happen to me before. Women will reach out and it's like, and then it kind of puts you in a precarious position because you're like, okay, it's almost like the woman is painting this picture as if you don't really know what's going on here. Maybe he's still messing around with her, or maybe, you just don't really know what all the details are. And so it makes it a very, very sticky situation.
And even for the men, it gets sticky and scary on a different level because, y'all get catty, we get doggy. And so we, when a dog fights, there's some flesh get torn, that type of thing. So, there's situations where it's like you in another man's, you have control of another man's kids, as it were, whether you're now the stepfather or you're dating, you're moving towards that. And, when it comes to like your kids, you have to discipline. And that kid could say something, whatever they want to say. They want to, Daddy, I was over there and he gave me a spanking and he hit me really hard and blah, 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 hit me in the head. And no, they didn't hit him in the head. Just did, I had to discipline him. He was about to run across a freeway on a tricycle. So I thought it would be better.
Not only will the other man might be mad at you, but I've heard a lot of times even a woman, she'll be mad.
Oh yeah. Why are you touching my kid? Don't touch. And so you it's their kid, and the level of complication on this stuff is so high. It's to this point. You can be a stepfather and or stepmother to a child. You pair bond with this child. You stepped in. The child was like 2, so this child only knows you until they're like 15, and then you get a divorce, and you as a stepfather or mother have no right to see that child at all ever again.
What? Are you serious?
Of course, it's not your child. It's you only have that legal, and to make it even worse.
Oh, I see what you're saying, like legally, yeah.
Yeah, and to make it even worse, you may end up having to pay for this child. You've already been paying for the past 13 years or whatever. When you say not necessarily like here's $500 a month, but just like, they're in the household. I paid for the biscuit, I paid for the grits, the egg, blah, blah, blah. Took them to the hospital, all those different costs.
Right.
And now you just get kicked out. Or you still have to continue paying and not see the child. So there are a lot of complications to that whole thing of having kids that a lot of people just don't think about. They're just like, oh, you can just step in. It's like, no, the legal side of this is vicious. They even had the same thing happen for a lesbian couple. they came in and it's the exact same situation. A homegirl, they got divorced, and it was like, you can't ever see this child again.
Yeah, and that's the thing I don't understand sometimes is like when people have children and they're dating, it's like I really think that if a person has a very strong stance in a certain direction when they're dating a person with children, I just think that the person who has the kids needs to respect that, number one, because there have been times even for me where like I may have been dating somebody and they were like, oh no, like I'll be like, I don't usually tend to date men with kids a lot of times because, I know at my age, it's kind of like everybody got them. But I'm saying like, I always kind of shied away from it because it just seems like there would always be these issues or situations. Not even just to mention like, the stuff that I had said before about, what the mother, how her role is and how she plays into it. But even sometimes the guys will play games too and do things like they may show up late or I don't know, any number of things could happen on the man's end where he'll blame it on my baby mama, blah, 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 or this, that, and the other happened, or we could be making plans. Like I remember one time I made plans with this guy. This was like my final straw. I made plans with this guy to go to a play. And he was telling me, oh, go get the tickets and then I'll reimburse you. I was like, no, that's not going to happen. I said, I'll wait because he had to go out of town. I said, I'll wait for you to come back from out of town. He was like, all right. He told me he had to go because we were up in, it was in DC, but he was from, I think, Nashville or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, he had family down there. So he said he had to go down there for a funeral or something. And we didn't talk for a long time. And then all of a sudden, one day he tells me, after a while, like after 3 or 4 weeks, and I had called him at, sporadically in between, he tells me, oh yeah, my baby mama had me thrown in jail. Now, here's why this was a problem for me. Prior to me even, I wasn't actually trying to date him. I just thought he was a nice guy. And I was like, he'll be somebody cool to hang out with, because he was hella cool, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're dragging this a little bit.
It says, seems like one of the streams is having connection issues. Oh, no.
Okay. You look like you're coming back.
Am I? I'm here. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this guy basically, told me that I couldn't really see him until like maybe, I don't even think it was the second, but like more the third and fourth week of the month because of his first paycheck. That's why I wasn't really dating him. It was just, he was more somebody that I would hang out with if I had free time or whatever. But I'm like, I didn't want to commit to that. Like, I don't know how long that's going to go on for. And then I'm like, how does she put you in jail for not paying child support if you specifically told me you can't go out the first and second week because of your payment? So I'm saying the level of all of this just gets way too complicated, and I can't.
The question was posed to me is like, how many children would a single mother have before it's too complicated to date? And I was like, one. At one, it gets complicated. At two, especially
you mean for you?
Yeah, for the male or the female. But it's like, for you end up, especially if it's like multiple baby daddies or multiple baby mamas, you end up in triangles. It's like, okay, it's the child, it's the woman that you're dating, if it's a man, if it's a woman that you're dating, the child and the man. And so you're dealing with two extra personalities that you don't have control over. And if it's two children by two baby daddies, it's like now two different triangles. Well, I don't know what the formulation is for this math, but I know it's just you're trying to be with this one person, and now you have two different men who could, both kids got in trouble and you had to discipline both kids. And now you have two different men who are sitting there, yelling at you for disciplining their kid. Or if like, the costs that are involved. So it's like, I know a guy who has, has children by this woman, and she already has other children by 2 other men, and these other men weren't paying money to take care of their children. So he's now spending money. It was like, okay, and she's like, well, you don't have extra money, blah 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 blah. And he's like, don't you need to go back to their dad
Right.
and ask
Right.
them for money? But but because he was there, it was like more expected that he would do this instead of
Right.
her going. So it gets
And that's a
extremely
tough
complicated.
situation, because then it would seem like, I would feel like if I were a man in that position, that money has to get split up 4 ways. If I have 2 kids with her and then there's 2 other kids, I would feel like, well, maybe I don't want to give too much more to just my kids. I would want some of that to go to her kids too, but I still would want my kids to have what I want them to have. So yeah, that's just a complicated situation. I think that people need to be honest and upfront, especially when they have kids, about what their intentions are. If a man has kids, or a woman has, there's only a man and a woman having kids, but if you have kids, you have to be upfront at the gate. And I think that one thing that I notice with people sometimes that I find so disturbing is how a person can date somebody who has kids, but it's almost like in their mind, the kids don't exist. Now, if you're just dating that person just to have sex and to have a good time, I sure hope the other person knows that that's all that's about. And I hope that you ain't going over there meeting their kids if that's all that's about. But
Man.
the
Ooh, that gets
idea
scary.
that people think that they can date someone who has children and not consider, the child like as someone that,
absorbing that information, that whole situation.
yeah, it's just crazy to me. Like,
I actually went out on a date, and I had no intention. I met her daughter, and it was like, her daughter's like 4 or something like that. The age of recognition.
wow.
Yeah. And so she was like, oh, well, I need to take my daughter over to my mother's house. I'm like, your daughter and your mother in the same, this is the first date. Come on, this is messy. It was messy. So I was like, okay, smash, but still, it was, but it was like,
Yeah, that might be a lot.
yeah. It's like, and it's a level of like, this is my thing for men and women, but specifically a little bit more for women, I would say. If you're looking to get a man and you have kids, you have to outperform. Your kids have to be on point. You can't be one of those screeching, screaming, your kids are all over the place, blah, 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 and expect the guy to come in and like, I'd like to set up camp here and and deal with the triangle and everything like that, the complications and everything while she's out of control. And the same thing applies for fathers. It's like, if you have other women, the mothers involved, how you control your situation
Right.
matters, because that's what the other person is walking into. And you have to be, I think one of the things that are missing throughout these a lot of the dating phases that people go throughout all the ages, doesn't matter, is the number one thing is consideration.
Yeah.
If you're not considerate of a person, I say this in terms of on all levels. A lot of times women will talk about, okay, the man is supposed to pay and all this other kind of stuff. It's like a person that you just met, you don't know their financial situation, they're supposed to pay. You're not considerate. You're not considering what this other person is going through. They're finding you just looking at their pockets. So that's not nice. And so
That's not nice.
yeah, the person's going to see that. And if you're trying to bring another person into your family situation, and your family situation is chaotic, that's not considerate. So you have to be, if you want to have a good relationship, you have to consider the other person. That's the reason why you have to, a very good trait is to listen to the other person, so that it's like, oh, well, the reason why I knew to do this specific thing that you liked is because you actually said it. And if it shows,
I was going to say that when you said you need to actually listen, both parties also need to be honest. That's a big thing, is being honest, completely honest, and not just saying things that sound good or feel good, or like you were saying earlier, sometimes if a person doesn't want somebody to run out of their life, they may just say all the things that they need to say to keep them around. But everything is going to come to light. So people should be honest, and they should also listen to that honesty on both sides. Yeah.
I've heard it from both sides. I've heard situations where it's like the man is sitting there saying, "Oh yeah, I got 2 kids, blah 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 blah." And then a little bit later, "Oh well, I got 4 kids, you know, blah 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 blah." Then it's like, "Hold up, you said something else, and that sounds like 5 kids." "Oh well, yeah, I didn't count them because they were grown." It's like, what? You got 5?
I've actually heard that before. I've had guys that I've asked them if they had kids, and they said no. And then I found out later they did have kids, but they were like, "Oh, I thought you were asking because trying to see if it was going to be a problem." No, it's not going to be a problem because they're grown. Let me tell you, I had this one guy one time. I just told him straight up. I said, I don't usually talk to guys with kids. And well, this is years ago when I said this. And he told me, "Oh, there won't be a problem because I don't hardly ever even see him."
What?
I'm like, I really don't want to talk to you now.
Wow. Oh,
I was like, you really thought that was a way to get to me? You actually made yourself look even worse. Okay.
Yeah. I met a young lady who she it was weird because she had a C-section scar, and she said she was in a car accident. And I'm like, come on now. But you know, she was talking on the phone with a kid, and was like, "Oh, so how many kids do you have?" "Oh, I have 2 kids." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But the phone kept ringing, and the voices of the kids sounded sort of different. And so it just got to the point she showed me a picture of her and 6 children.
Ooh.
And she said, "What do you think?" I said, "I think you're fertile."
So she told you she had 2, and then she ended up having 6?
Yep.
See, that's that stuff, man. You can't be like that. Like, if I had 6 kids, I'm gonna be like, look, if you can't handle all this, I mean, and really, honestly, I'm the one that has to kind of be a little bit more, whatever, like extra. But I mean, even still, like, if a man is not down for it, like it is what it is. Like, you made that decision. Come back, man. What the hell's going on?
I got a special camera.
It was like all this noise all of a sudden. I'm like, what the hell's going on over there?
Yeah.
But
I had dropped my libations.
Hey, well, you know what? It's all good because we need to go ahead and wrap it up. Safe sex on this conversation anyway. Yeah. And let's just kind of like rehash like this whole our topics.
Basically
about the age and dating.
Basically, it comes down to this. If you want solutions out of this, one, when you're getting with a person, got to be honest, obviously. But listen. I think the two main things for me is always listen and be considerate. Because if you're trying to be with this person, especially over a long period of time, then what they say matters because it's going to show up later. And if you want them to stick around, you have to be considerate of them because otherwise they're like, well, this person doesn't care about me. I mean, consideration shows that you care. So, and also the other thing, those are your kids. You need to have your house in order in order to have other people, want to be a part of that situation. So that's what I take away from it. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, it is what it is, but yeah, pretty much just kind of like reiterating what you said, piggybacking off of that. That is definitely, and that actually communication does have those 2 parts. They always say communication is being an active listener as well as, someone who knows how to communicate well. So, I mean, it just seems like the bottom line with any relationship though is good communication. But as you get older, man, you can't, you
Don't
just
be playing around. Don't be playing around.
Yeah, like you got to get better. People ain't got time for that. Like we 100 years old out here. You only got 5 more years to live, man. Like get straight to the point, okay?
Come on, just tell me what I want to know.
I'm just saying. But yeah, between that and like you said, you definitely have to have your house in order because I mean that is I was like,
Mhm.
what happened? You look like you were frozen for a minute. But yeah, you definitely want to have your house in order because you don't want to invite somebody into a mess because then that person gets caught up in it and you
Mhm.
know, that'll put a strain on your relationship too, and then you'll be stressed out twice. Stressed out squared.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's very
yeah.
true. Very true. Hmm.
So tell us what you thought about this topic. Tell us like what are your experiences?
Comment,
Like
comment,
have you
comment.
had any experience with dating somebody and you know maybe they weren't that honest with you and you're a little bit older or whatever, or maybe you may even have some advice about what works, and tell us if you have some situations that happen even with the children. Like just let us know what you think about this topic. Let us know your own personal experience. And then remember, yes, subscribe, hit the
Like.
notification bell,
Notifications. Mhm.
all of the above. And share this with your friends, your family, everybody.
There you go.
Everybody in the club get tipsy. Get tipsy. All right, y'all. Well, it's Uncle B and Fee.
That's right. Y'all have yourself a good time. I know I will.
Yes, and he sure will. So as soon as we cut this broadcast, he gonna be over there on the flow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all. Well, look, we're gonna see y'all again next week, Tuesday, 8 to 9 Eastern Standard Time. Don't
Peace
be
out.
late.